Hey class, in today's session, we are going to study about the body's response to the implant. Now, till now, we've just been discussing what happens to the implant when it comes in contact with the body. However, the body also has quite a lot of issues to deal with when there's a foreign material inside it. The response of the body towards an implant varies based on the following factors: the host, the site, the species, the degree of trauma imposed during implantation, the nature of the material used, and so on. So, the nature of the material used is taken care of when we are manufacturing it and like trying to make it as biocompatible as possible. Now, the host can vary. When what implant might be neutral on me might not be neutral on you because your body is different from mine. Some people have autoimmune disorder, so their response to an implant might be totally different from someone who doesn't have an autoimmune disorder. The site of implantation also matters. Uh, an implant that is superficially placed is it's what that implant goes through is totally different from an implant that is placed deep inside the body. The species would also make a difference because what works on human might not work on cat and dogs. The degree of trauma imposed during implantation is also a factor because it depends on how deep your incision is, how much you are damaging the neighboring tissue while placing your implant, and so on. So, generally, a body's reaction to foreign material is to reject them. Body doesn't like anything foreign. So, the material may either be extruded or walled up if it cannot be removed by the body. So, if the material is particular or fluid, then it is ingested by macrophages and then removed. Phagocytosis. These processes are related to healing process of the wound where the implant is present as an additional factor. A typical tissue response is appearance of polymorphonuclear leukocytes near the implant followed by macrophages. So polymorphonuclear leukocytes are nothing but your neutrophils, basophils and eosinophils. So if you're having an infection because of the placement of an implant, then the chances of these individual WBC count is where to be high is very large. If an implant is inert, it's totally irreactive, then macrophages do not appear near the implant. Instead, they just form a collagenous layer that is encapsulating the implant. If the implant is chemically or physically irritating to the surrounding tissue, then inflammation occurs to the site. Very straightforward. Now, inflammation would actually delay the healing process, leading to the formation of granular tissue. In contrast, if it's a porous implant that are fixated by ingrowth of surrounding tissue, then in porous implant, basically there are pores available, so tissues can grow within inside. So that would actually that would actually enhance, facilitate healing, wound healing. But some implant can also cause necrosis of the tissue by chemical, mechanical, or thermal trauma. Necrosis means death. So in general, if it's an optimal implant, then we have to have the mechanical properties of it that is similar to the organ that it is replacing. Then the material properties such as the shape and other properties, biocompatibility that needs to be taken care of. The chemical properties such as the corrosion and ion release needs to be sorted out. Then the surface properties, that is surface shouldn't corrode or it shouldn't wear or it shouldn't cause tissue reactions. Then the environment in which the implant is placed, then that should not cause corrosion or wear or biology, it shouldn't trigger a biological response or the tissue response such as remodeling, repairing or wound healing should not be affected by the presence of the implant. So this is what the body expects from a particular implant. I think that's all we have. Oh, hang on. There is tissue response as well. So, tissue response can either be minimal response or it can be necrosis. So, minimal response is that okay, the tissue just acknowledges the presence of a biomaterial and doesn't do much at all. So, sometimes it can be chemically induced, sometimes it can be physically induced. So, physical induction is basically inflammatory response to particulates, and chemical response is inflammatory response to substances such as the thermosetting resins or absorbable sutures. Now, this can become chronic as well, chronic or severe inflammatory response, where occurs mostly in degradable materials, thermoplastics with toxic additives, or corrosion metal particles. Now, tissue growth inside porous material usually occurs in polymers or porous ceramics or composites. So that is mainly facilitated because it's porous, so it can cause tissue growth inside it. And necrosis is a layer of necrotic debris that usually occurs in surgical adhesives or bone cements. So I think that's all we have time for this lecture. I hope you had a fruitful session, and I shall see you in the next class. Thank you.